Before we begin, in 2019, YouTube was caught data mining children under the age of 13, violating the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies meant to dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. This video is not made for kids. It is not targeted at kids. It is not advertising to kids. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. It's once again time for Doctor Who Series 12, Episode 7, Can You Hear Me? Co-written by Charlene James and Chris Chibnall. As always, we will be discussing spoilers, so if you have not seen this episode yet, I really suggest you do that. And this was actually a really good episode. I mean, so far, most of the episodes of Series 12 have been either good or really good, you know? Orphan 55 being the obvious outlier. But, yeah, no, I found I really liked this. So, after dropping off everyone at home to go back and doing their own things, the doctor picks up. It was either a disturbance or a distress call. It doesn't matter, but I don't remember which one. And she goes to investigate it, which brings her back in time to Aleppo. And like throughout most of this episode, I got a lot of serious Deadly Assassin vibes. Like basically, if you're unfamiliar, what happened on a bit of an ego trip, Tom Baker said, "Oh, I'm so good, I can do this on my own without a companion." So the writers in the show basically gave him the Deadly Assassin to try and prove it. It didn't work. And one of the things that happened in the Deadly Assassin is because Tom Baker didn't have a companion to work off, he often ended up talking to himself. You know, it's not subtle, but it's one of the easiest ways to do it. A solo adventure, I mean. And and just the way they use the Doctor in this story, I was just getting a lot of Deadly Assassin vibes. Just because she's on her own for a lot of this story, so she ends up talking to herself. Although I did like it, because, you know, she's been traveling with companions for so long that she keeps forgetting she doesn't have companions. So that was a sort of a nice touch on the formula. And anyway, and then, meanwhile, the companions are sort of dealing with stuff of their own. Ryan has a friend named Tebow who is going through some stuff. It's an important day for Yaz and her sister, and Graham has his own things going on as well. I'm going to try and hold off on talking about the companions for a little bit. We'll get there, don't worry, but I want to kind of bury the lead on them, because a lot of their good stuff doesn't come until the later half of the episode. But, you know, they all keep... Meanwhile, everyone is talking about having nightmares, seeing a mysterious man in black, watching them. Where do I want to go from there? And... okay, here's where I'll go from there. The direction is really good. You know, the use of close-ups is effective, as well as the use of Dutch angles, you know? Because a Dutch angle is supposed to portray tension. It's supposed to show unease. Because it's such an unnatural-looking shot. So anytime you saw one in this episode, it was used really well. Really, my big critiques of this episode are kind of tied together. Tahira, a woman the Doctor meets in ancient Aleppo, she's really sort of flat and two-dimensional, and just for as important as she is to the plot, she doesn't really do a lot. And in relation to that, the what were they called? I think they were called the Chigaskis, basically manifestations of her nightmares. Now, the design on the Chigaskis is really cool. It looks like something out of Annihilation. Like, specifically, I thought of the bear. But the CG on them was absolutely terrible. And given what else went into this episode, effects-wise and budget-wise, it does kind of make sense, but... And I do feel the Chigaskis, for the purpose they serve their purpose to the plot, but it feels kind of shoehorned in. Anyway, so the main villain of this story, Zelen. This was kind of shocking. He's an Eternal. Like, of all the races, creatures, monsters, etc., to come back to Doctor Who, to make a return, I was not expecting the Eternals. And that's really cool. The Eternals are a race of immortals. They had one story on screen, the Fifth Doctor story, Enlightenment, which was the final part of the Black Guardian trilogy, Modern Undead, Terminus, and Enlightenment. I haven't seen it yet, so what I just explained is all I know, but there was a point I was trying to get. But, like I said, it's cool that we did get actually another classic monster, classic race, technically, back. And I like that it is the Eternals, the more I think about it, because it's a race that is bigger and more powerful than the Time Lords. Like, once again, the reason Tennant and Smith are my least favorite Doctors are because of how big the show made them. The Doctor has to be the most important, most powerful being in the universe. Literally, the end of time, the Doctor beats the Master because everyone prays to him. And I've always hated that, but I like the Eternals because they are truly bigger than the Time Lords. Like, one of the reasons I love Jodie Whittaker is because how small her Doctor feels. Like, she is an adventurer. She likes being insignificant, and we once again get a race that says, yes, you are. And I just love that for the Doctor. Like, let's be honest, the Eternals, the Guardians, the Celestial Toymaker, the Great Old Ones, yes, the Great Old One, H.P. Lovecraft's Great Old Ones even show up in Doctor Who. Davies or Moffat never would have put them in the show because the Doctor had to be the biggest thing in the universe. But that's what I love about this. It's once again bringing the Doctor back down to what she used to be, what she was in the classic series, and I just love that. And Jodie's performance throughout this episode is good. Like I said, just with the way it evokes the Deadly Assassin, the talking to herself thing, again, it's not the most subtle way to do a solo Doctor adventure, but it is probably the easiest. So that was one thing I didn't like. We're going to talk about the ending, but not quite yet. Her confrontation with Zelen was also really good. Like, I'll say it again, I forget the last time I say it, but the villains are a huge step up from Series 11. And you can tell just by Jodie's performance in the scenes where she has to confront them, because she has just such intensity. And some of those villain confrontation scenes, like this one, are some of the best stuff in Series 12. And also the set design for the ship they're on, for the prison, is also really good, really well handled. Like I said, the companion stuff is all really big, so I'm trying to build up to it, and I'm trying to get to that last. So let's see, anything else on the directing? The music is really good. Like I said, Segun Akinola might be my favorite composer for Doctor Who, just because I am paying so much more attention to the music. The pacing is much slower than previous episodes, but not in a way that the episode drags. It's a slow burn, but it's very welcome for the kind of story they're doing. And, one more thing. One thing I've really loved about the Jodie era is how much it feels like classic Who. Like I just mentioned, having a race being so much bigger than the Time Lords, than the Doctor, because that was something that classic Who did a lot. The Doctor, who loved being insignificant, was able to take on these gods and outsmart them, like the Great Intelligence or the Celestial Toymaker and so on. But yeah, no, the Jodie era feels so much like classic Who. Like, one of my favorite things about Series 11 is just, let's be honest, it's a series of classic Who, regular, down to earth, normal companions who are not plot devices, who are not the be all end all of the Doctor's life. A series of single adventures with no connections whatsoever, no BS story arc, and a finale that isn't really a finale, it's just another adventure. And they kind of do that again here, because one thing that was really common in the Hartnell and Troughton era, and it showed up a little bit later in Classic Who, but it kind of did die out after Troughton, is that the ending of one adventure would be the start of another. Like, for example, when An Unearthly Child ended, one of the scanners on the console showed the radiation levels to their new destination were critical. They were very dangerous, leading into the Daleks. Or when the moon base ended, the Doctor activated the time scanner to see where they were going, and it ended with Polly on the time scanner seeing a macro claw, leading into the macro terror. And Series 12 so far has done this a couple times. Like, Fugitive of the Jadoon led right into Praxius, and this episode leads right into next week's episode. And again, I'm enjoying how much the Jodie era feels like Classic Who. So now let's talk about the companions, and then let's talk about the ending. So, what this Eternal is doing, Zelen, is he is creating nightmares in the people of Earth to feed his companion who has been imprisoned. I don't think we ever got her name. And then once she's free, he sort of starts feeding everyone's fears to her en masse. Actually, the scene right before it with the mom tucking her kid into bed is really good. And through this, we see a lot of the companions' nightmares. Again, talking about the ending, we're going to hold off on Graham. But like Ryan, for example, because this episode opened with Ryan finally getting his friend, I just forgot his name now, and I just said it at the beginning of the video, getting his friend's messages, and he's late, and then we get his nightmare where he meets his friend as an old man, and, Ryan wants to help people. He wants to help his friends, and he's worried he's not going to be there. Which I can understand that. That is really a really scary fear to have, to have people rely on you and you let them down or not be there for them. Although in his dream, the dregs were unnecessary. And then Yaz, oh my God, yeah. And when Ryan's sort of arc concludes with his friends, I can't believe I forgot his name. I think it was like Toby or something. And his friend starts going to a support group, and Ryan's like, no, you're not okay. You need help. And we see his friends start going to this support group. I got a little choked up, I'm not going to lie. And I do feel that's something that's been kind of missing from the Jodie era, as much as I've been enjoying it. There hasn't really been any kind of emotional connection. And then Yaz. Oh my God. Mandip Gill's performance was wonderful. And I feel like getting this information makes Yaz make so much more sense in hindsight, why she is such a risk taker and why she's done some of the things she's done, because she wants to be there for people who need help the way that cop was there for her. And here's one thing I want to say too. This episode is a parable about mental illness. Some people say it's not as good as Vincent and the Doctor. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to compare them. But I'm not talking about the mental illness angle for a reason. I don't have any of these issues, and I'm not in contact with people who are. I don't know very many people who do. So I feel unequipped, unprepared to talk about them. So I don't want to do it, and part of it is I don't want to do it and be inaccurate while doing it. That's why I'm not going at this from the thematic angle. Anyway, and then at the end, the Doctor confides his own fears. No, sorry. Graham confides his own fears in the Doctor. And people were not happy with this scene. Because, in The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Graham mentioned that he met Grace while he was being treated for cancer. And that is his fear, that his cancer is going to come back. And the Doctor sort of just points out she is socially awkward and can't think of anything to say. And people lost their minds about this for some odd reason, because, they're saying, oh, Graham's one of your friends. Why are you being like this? And it's like, really? First of all, here's the thing. That is really relatable. I've been in positions where I've had to comfort people, where I've been the shoulder to cry on. And sometimes, when you get a bomb dropped on you like that, there is nothing you can say, okay? Sometimes you don't know what to say. And in those situations, hollow platitudes are sometimes one of the worst things you can say. And for another thing, it once again lends to the alien nature of the Doctor, because the Doctor, for all her travels, for all her experiences, still doesn't really understand humans, as we've seen, in a previous incarnation, the Doctor made Clara his carer. She cares so I don't have to. Or he needed flashcards to know how to talk to people. Once again, it lends to the angle that the Doctor is an alien. And finally, that's a rant that is building up since Spyfall, but I'm gonna not go on it here. We'll see what happens next week. Oh boy. And finally, at the end of their little exchange, Graham smiles and laughs. The comfort he was seeking, he clearly got. So I don't see how, that's an issue, because clearly she knew how to help Graham. She knew the best thing to do was just say, oh, don't worry about it. Anyway, Can You Hear Me is really good. As much as I've been enjoying Series 12, I have not been engaged like that in a long time. I'm giving Can You Hear Me a 9 out of 10. But those are just my thoughts on this episode. What were yours? Share a conversation in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Share the video around as it helps my channel grow. In the description box below, you'll find the link to my Ko-fi, where you can help support the channel. And you'll find the link to my Twitter, where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and I'll see you guys next time.